Hey guys, it's Scotty Schwartz, and tonight a full half-hour special on Sean Combs' federal sex trafficking and racketeering trial. And back on the stand today, the prosecutor's star witness, the singer known as Cassie Ventura, and this time being questioned by Sean Combs' defense team, who introduced hundreds of messages between the two, many of them extremely graphic and explicit, with the hope that they would portray her as a loving partner and a willing participant in those drug-fueled sex sessions with prostitutes that Combs called freak-offs. But all this in the shadow of Cassie testifying yesterday to harrowing abuse, including Combs allegedly raping her in 2018.
I'm not going to opine on what the jury's thinking, but I think that Cassie's doing a great job on cross-examination.
Hey there, we start tonight with Cassie Ventura back on the stand in that sex trafficking trial against Sean Diddy Combs, with the defense trying to paint a much different picture today. Explicit messages between Combs and Cassie were revealed during her cross-examination, and those texts appear to show Cassie a willing participant in those so-called freak-offs. Now, one exchange where Cassie says, quote, "I am always ready to freak off." They also lay out the timeline of their relationship, which started back in 2005 when Cassie was just 19 years old. The defense honing in on how she kept coming back to Combs despite his abusive behavior. One email from her in 2009 said, quote, "That is the only reason I go back and forth in my mind with wanting and not wanting to do it. When we used to freak off, when we were so in love, there were no questions asked. It felt right." And that jaw-dropping video of Combs attacking Cassie at the Intercontinental Hotel here in Los Angeles back in 2016, well, the defense is highlighting some of the messages leading up to that. Cassie telling Combs beforehand, "Baby, I want to F-O so bad. I don't want to F myself up. What am I going to do?" But over the last few days, Cassie has testified that Combs was abusive, controlling, a megalomaniac, even testifying that he raped her. NBC News entertainment correspondent Chloe Malas has more.
Cassie Ventura stand today, this time facing cross-examination from Sean Combs' lawyers. His defense team fighting back against testimony that Ventura was forced to participate in drug-fueled sexual encounters known as freak-offs. Combs' team submitting often explicit text messages and emails sent between the former couple into evidence. In one, Ventura writing to Combs in 2009 after they had been dating for 2 years, "I'm always ready to freak off." In another that same year, she writes, "When we used to freak off, when we were so in love, there were no questions asked. It felt right." When asked by Combs' lawyer about a text from 2017 where she said she loved freak-offs, Ventura said they were just words at that point.
There's a chance that one or more of the jurors might hear this evidence that she came back time and time again to Combs, that she participated in these freak-offs. And some of the jurors may conclude that this was more of a choice than it was coercion.
The defense team also asking about the couple's infidelity on both sides, seeming to paint the relationship as deeply troubled but consensual. Cassie said Combs kicked her in the back after finding out she cheated on him with rapper Kid Cudi, also admitting that she was jealous of a relationship Combs was having with another woman. She also spoke about the couple's extensive drug use and revealed Combs overdosed on painkillers in 2012. She said drug dependence influenced some of the rapper's mood swings and also spoke again about her own drug addiction. Ventura's cross-examination comes after 2 days of emotional testimony in which she said Combs subjected her to years of physical and psychological abuse. Testifying that Combs blackmailed her with recordings from sexual encounters to silence her and keep her in the relationship. Combs has pleaded not guilty and says the freak-offs were consensual.
And let's bring in Chloe Malas, who is outside the courthouse. So, Chloe, a lot of explicit exchanges today, but we're seeing these transcripts and these court pictures. We are not seeing any video that's coming out. Cameras aren't allowed. So how would you describe the defense and their questioning? Was it hostile? Was it methodical? Like, how do you think the jury saw it here?
It was slow, and it was not explosive in the sense that they were not badgering her. So this particular attorney, she was very measured, at one point even complimenting Cassie and calling her charming and beautiful as a part of her line of questioning, and it seemed genuine. So you know, Cassie being so pregnant, the last thing that they would want is to come across as badgering or harassing her. And so actually things were pretty peaceful. And Cassie, although she wasn't giving long answers, she was seemingly pleasant in answering all of the questions today.
Pleasant between those two, but it did seem to get pretty testy between the judge and the defense. Like, there was a quote that came out that we all just kind of were like, what is going on in there? This one right here, if we can pull it up. Judge, in what universe did you not understand that this was not going to happen? You're not telling me that this was everyone's understanding. Well, what is going on here?
Okay, so cross-examination is not over. So Sean Combs's legal team, they need more time to try to poke holes in her testimony from earlier this week. But the judge and the prosecutors are saying, listen, Cassie, she needs to get off the stand. She's about to give birth and she could go into labor as early as this weekend. So the judge saying you have 5 more hours on Friday. That's it. And Mark Agnifilo, who's one of the very famous celebrity attorneys, he also represents Luigi Mangione right now. He said, Your Honor, we'll do our best, but my client has every right to let us cross-examine basically the star witness of this case, and we shouldn't be rushed. He has legal rights.
And Kid Cudi, we also saw him mentioned again today, also Michael B. Jordan. What do we know about that there?
So Cassie dated both of them at different periods of time over the course of her relationship with Diddy, because she and Diddy, it appears, were in an open relationship. He had relationships with other women. She had relationships with other men. And in this instance, Cassie was recounting a time when she actually cheated on Combs, if you can call it cheating in an open relationship. But Combs found out that she was seeing Kid Cudi. He was very upset, and she claims that he kicked her in the back, and that he was also upset when he found out that she was dating actor Michael B. Jordan. And the big question is, are we going to see these guys, these incredibly famous men, each individually come into the courtroom and testify over these 8 weeks? And I think that there's a chance that we could see at least one of them.
Yeah, especially Kid Cudi and what happened or possibly happened to his car there. Very interesting. We also saw a little bit more about what happened around the time of the beating that was caught on camera. A little more context there. What did we learn?
So that is where the testimony today ended, or the questioning of Cassie Ventura. It was the days leading up to that incident in 2016 at the Intercontinental Hotel. Like you said, she was brutally, viciously beaten by Combs in the hallway of that elevator bank. And we're hearing about how Cassie seemed to be a willing participant, wanting to take part in this freak-off, that perhaps it was even her idea to do this freak-off before her movie premiere. But we didn't finish that line of questioning today, and that's where we think it's going to start in the morning. But again, they have pages and pages of text messages, Gotti, from the entire relationship. She's reading some of them, the attorney is reading some of them, and will it sway the jurors? Will they think that perhaps she wasn't completely coerced, completely forced into these situations?
Yeah, we'll see tomorrow. And Cassie is still testifying tomorrow, right? How long is that going to go on after what we saw, that back and forth between the judge and who's going to follow her testimony?
So 5 hours is all they're supposed to get, the defense team. But, I mean, it's really up to the judge. The judge, at his discretion, could allow cross-examination to go on a little bit longer. But we do know that the prosecution plans to have 2 witnesses in the wings. One is Dawn Richard. You might remember her. She was in a very popular band called Danity Kane. She was in the Making the Band show that Diddy executive produced. And so she is expected to take the stand. She is a civil accuser. She's also filed a suit against Sean Combs. And then there's also someone named Yasin Binda. We don't know who that is. Did a quick Google search and couldn't find anything. Could be an escort, could be a friend, a former employee, former personal assistant. We're not sure, but that is expected to happen tomorrow if cross-examination ends.
We'll be watching. Chloe Malas, thank you so much. And just moments ago, we heard from both sides as they left the courtroom for the day. First, Cassie's attorney, then Combs's publicist. Let's take a quick listen.
she was ready, and I think she's demonstrating that. It's a long day. It's nice to be outside right now.
It seems
That's
to me
for
that
sure.
defense is really going in that she was an integral part of these freak-offs. How do you think the jury's going to take that?
Oh, you okay? Sorry. You all right? Watch yourself. Look, I'm not going to opine on what the jury's thinking, but I think that Cassie's doing a great job on cross-examination, a very long cross-examination. Hopefully it ends tomorrow. And so she can be done by the end of the week and put this entire chapter of her life behind her. She's doing as best as she can. She's obviously, tired, as you would expect, but she's holding up great. I mean, it's a real tribute to her.
How do you feel like how they're flipping the script with the cross?
I don't think they're flipping any script. It just seems they're reconfirming the direct.
Do you feel like today made Diddy and everything that we saw in that video gave it an excuse for it?
I'm sorry?
Everything that we saw on the video at Intercontinental, do you feel like today's testimony from Cassie gave an excuse and they kept talking about the withdrawal from the drug abuse? Was she spoken?
No, I mean, look, I don't know that. I don't think there's a legal defense to this case based on his drug use. So I'm not really sure what
Diddy's
that's all
team
about.
looked a little more excited today, though. Like they had a win today.
Oh, well, okay. Well, it's not really up to what Diddy's team thinks. Not up to what I think. Actually, it's what the jury thinks. And
Did he feel any shame at all?
So,
I don't know what he's thinking.
I saw Cassie touching her back and stretching and drinking lots of water. Do you think that the stress could possibly induce her to go in sooner?
I'm not a doctor. I'm just a lawyer. I have no idea. I hope
Does she
not.
seem okay when you've been speaking to her? Behind you.
Yep, she seems great to me. She seems great.
Any word on how her husband is currently feeling?
I mean, I said it yesterday. If you were in his shoes, I think, this is difficult for him to watch, but he's holding up great.
What about the whole Suge Knight thing? Her saying that Diddy and his friends went without her and then they brought it back that she said she went with them. Can that be happening?
Are they trying to confuse the jury?
I think that's just a minor point that, unfortunately, somebody got wrong when she was being interviewed. She didn't review those notes or anything like that. I think the one thing about her testimony really is there's no credibility issues with her. The facts are the facts. She's telling them as they are, her truth. And they are what they are. This is not a typical cross-examination. There's no issues with her credibility. It's a testament to her.
What about the look when Cassie is looking at him? Do they meet eye contact at all?
I didn't see that. I actually wasn't looking for that. I'm not here to put a microscope on Cassie. That's not what this is. This isn't Sean Combs versus Cassandra Ventura. This is Sean Combs against
Do you think this could be a bigger
America.
story on the music industry as a whole as opposed to just Puff Daddy? Do you think that maybe they're targeting him? And what is your opinion on that?
All I'm focused on is Sean Combs right now, not the music industry.
I understand. And what is your name one more time?
Holly Baird.
Holly Baird. Nice to meet you, ma'am. Thank you very much for taking the time.
How's the kids feeling?
Everyone's, motivated and energetic and upbeat, and I think waiting for this day to be able to showcase what's been happening in real time.
The girls. Why are the girls?
They have graduation and prom. It is May in Los Angeles. Everyone graduates and has prom in May. This is what happens in Los Angeles. So I don't know what New York. But everyone is exiting school and they're seniors. So it's good to at least allow them some normalcy in their lives right now.
Messy outside of the courthouse, but yet that's a lot of how we get our information, somewhat of that circus that you see, and yet we are gleaning details from what happened today from lawyers, from publicists there. And joining us now is NBC News legal analyst Angela Sinadella, criminal defense lawyer and former Manhattan prosecutor Jeremy Silland. Angela, let's start with you here. A big part of a cross-examination today were these explicit messages between Cassie and Diddy, including one where Cassie told Diddy, quote, "I'm always ready to freak off." Do you think that we might see that become part of the defense's closing arguments?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the defense strategy that we know of right now is that of consensuality, that she was a willing, able participant in all of this. And so any text messages like this that do show consensuality would help their case. But that said, I want to make clear that even if a relationship starts as consensual, if at some point down the line it turns into a commercial sex act through force, fraud, or coercion, that is sex trafficking. So to me, it's not even necessarily that relevant that there there are these text messages, because there's also a video where she says she was trying to escape a freak off and she was viciously assaulted, and the cameras showed that. So to me, it almost doesn't matter, but it will certainly be a part of the defense's strategy, Gotti.
And Jeremy Salant, this hyper-focus on the relationship between Cassie and Diddy, like, how does that play into or possibly negate the charges of sex trafficking and racketeering here?
Well, to the point that was just made, it's not necessarily the quantity or it's more so the quality and when those loving opining messages were. It's one thing to say, I'm jealous of Porter, the ex-partner of Diddy. I'm jealous. I want to spend time with your family. I love you. I enjoy these freak-offs. At some point, there's time A or place A, and then we get to B all the way to point Z where she's getting her head stomped in. She's getting thrashed. There's threats of blackmail when she's trying to escape him. She's getting a burner phone for a guy that Cuddy, a guy that she was dating. So you see this transition, and it certainly helps because you have to make it a colander. You have to poke holes so the prosecution, all those allegations, that evidence kind of flows through. But is it going to be enough? We're only on day 3? There's a lot more to come, but they're going to poke as many holes as they can before, 1 o'clock tomorrow, where the judge is saying, this is your end game, and Cassie's going to have a baby and is off the stand.
Yeah, and Angela, we just saw Cassie's attorney walking there, and one of the things that struck me that he said was that this was a witness that does not have credibility issues, which is somewhat out of the norm. Obviously, he's her attorney, but right. Do you agree? Do you think that she doesn't have credibility issues, or does this all still speak to whether this relationship and these freak-offs were consensual, and this was a consensual relationship to a certain extent here?
So I think compared to other possible witnesses up there, I think she really has very limited credibility issues. We did see the defense talking a lot about her cheating, and in that using the word "you lied," right, repeatedly. Mm-hmm. And the point of that was try to convey to the jury that she could also be a liar, so that could possibly also be a credibility issue. I think also the defense, though, is pointing out here that this could have been such a toxic relationship kind of overall that maybe she's misremembering things or kind of turning things more like regret afterwards. So I think there's a lot of emotion that's going to be tied into possibly her recollection. But I would generally agree with that attorney that credibility issues here seem limited, Gotti.
And Jeremy, Cassie seemed to at times ask the defense to rephrase the question. She used specific terms like "at that time," or she answered very plainly without elaborating at all. Got to ask, what goes into preparing a witness for any cross-examination?
So any good attorney is going to wear both hats, whether you're defense practicing as a prosecution or the prosecution practicing as the defense. And I think most attorneys will say to their clients, I'm not here to be your friend. I'm not here to just beat you up, but I'm going to treat you as my adversary on that stand and give you every scenario that I can think of. Those things that you may be unclear of, I'm going to try to twist it into something that may seem like a lie or to attack your credibility. I'm going to challenge you, and I'm going to take you down that road I want to, knowing full well this is not going to just be, well, in this case, pregnant Cassie that we're all going to feel bad for because she's about to have a baby. You're going to have to be confronted with those things that you said. Mm-hmm. You're going to be confronted with your jealousy. You're going to be confronted with wanting that record deal. You're going to be confronted with the $20 million that you pocketed, which is real money to everyone in this world other than maybe Sean Combs. So that's how you're preparing that witness. You're going to bring it all out in full force. You're not there to be their friend. You're there to be their advocate and prepare them.
And Angela, real fast, this cross-examination. Yesterday, we asked you what it was going to go like, and you said it was going to be a kind of a tightrope walk by the defense, and the defense might even compliment Cassie. That's exactly what we saw today. She's up there 8 months pregnant. Do you think that they're going to continue to find that delicate balance as they go into the last day of cross-examination, or could we see something different tomorrow?
Yeah, look, they have to keep a delicate balance, but that said, they also have to try to get aggressive at some point if they're not getting what they want. We all know that their time frame is extremely limited here, so if they don't feel they are getting the answers they need while acting delicately, they might get a little aggressive. That's also, though, why I said earlier that it would likely be a female attorney. That's what we're seeing here, and often jurors do react better to a female being more aggressive with a female than a male, frankly.
Angela Cittadella and Jeremy Saland, we really appreciate your time. We'll check back with you soon. And by most accounts, Sean Diddy Combs played a major role in making hip-hop what it is today, turning unknown artists into household names. He built an empire, not just with music, but with a media company, with a fashion label, even a popular vodka brand. And at one point, he had a net worth of around $1 billion. Also, back in 2003, a former Ford Motor Company showroom in Midtown Manhattan became the headquarters of Bad Boy Records. At the height of Diddy's career, this building was one of the pinnacles of the music industry, and this is what that building looks like today. Possibly a metaphor for what's going on, where his legacy is going, maybe. But here to answer that a little bit more is Variety's senior music writer, Stephen Horowitz. Stephen, thanks so much for being with us. What is this trial going to do to his legacy and to the companies that he started that are still around, like Bad Boy, Revolt? What do you think is going to happen here?
Well, I think in the court of law, it's that you're innocent until proven guilty. But I think in today's society, you know, you're often guilty until proven innocent. I mean, social media allows for anyone with opinion to have a platform to be amplified, whether their opinion is positive or negative or correct or incorrect. A lot of times once an allegation is made, it can be perceived as permanent, especially in such a high profile case like this. Like take Jay-Z, for instance, who was named in one of Diddy's civil suits. Despite the fact that the accuser dropped his name from the case, there are many people online who still hold him accountable for the accusations and claim that he paid his way out of the situation. So I think in a case this big on a federal level and all these civil suits that have come at him, it's going to be very hard for him to come out of this and to rebuild himself as the mogul that we've come to know him to be over the years. I don't think he's going to be able to reignite his business acumen. His music career has already taken a hit. It's really going to be an uphill battle if he gets out of this, which, you know, we're all waiting to see what happens.
We also live in a day and age where, like, there is such a thing as edgelording, right? And you know, the Bad Boy Records, obviously, there's a difference in today than 2003 and what Bad Boy means today versus then. But, like, do you think that there are going to be people out there that play Diddy's music going forward? Is it possible to separate the art from the artist for those that were huge fans? And do you think that we could see, like, this, I don't know, like, embrace of Diddy just because of the counter that he represents to society, which is what we've seen with some other artists that are out there right now?
For sure. I mean, if you take a look, the backlash was pretty instant when he was arrested on these federal charges. His songs were removed from radio playlists. He was removed from Spotify and Apple playlists, allegedly. But after he was arrested, his streams actually increased by 18.3% compared to the week prior. And the following month, his music only increased in popularity on those platforms. I mean, people have this nostalgic attachment to his music. I grew up listening to his music. His music is part of the fabric of my backgrounds, and it is for many people out there. I think separating the art from the artist is an individual opinion, but a lot of people still gravitate towards that music because they have emotional attachments to them. I mean, take a look at someone like Kanye West, for example, who is not the same artist today as we knew him 20 years ago, but people still defend his music and defend the things that he's saying online, however horrible they may be, because they're attached to this idea of who he was and what they provided for them. And I think in the case of Diddy, I think people will still listen to his music and sort of interrogate it in that way and interact with it like that.
Yeah, only time will tell. Stephen Horowitz, really appreciate that. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.